Are you sick and tired of praying for the same things over and over and over again, only to feel like God isn't listening? I'm going to tell you what you need to do in today's video. Well, hey friend, listen, I know what it's like to sit there and pray and pray and pray for the things that you're wanting in your life. I know what it's like to get so frustrated and to feel like God isn't even listening, to feel like, you know what, maybe God doesn't care about me because he's not answering my prayers. My name is Tammy from the website Footprints of Inspiration and a Faithful God podcast. And I teach women how to let go of those unrealistic expectations, how to let go of that need for perfection in their prayer walk and just start showing up perfectly imperfect to create a deep and meaningful relationship with God. So you take that long list of requests to the Lord, right? We take that long list and we've got all these prayer requests. Lord, give me this. Lord, I need this. Lord, do this, do this, do this, right? But the thing is we prayed, most of us have prayed that way for our entire lives. We don't know that there's this one little shift that we have to make when it comes to our prayer life. You see in James chapter 4, verse 3, it teaches us this. And even when you ask, you don't get it, because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. So let's talk about Jesus for just a moment. In the Garden of Gethsemane, we see Jesus praying in Luke chapter 42. And here he is, he's getting ready to be crucified. He is getting ready to just go through unimaginable pain, suffering. He's going to be beaten. He's going to have to carry this big, heavy cross through the streets. And then he's going to die a very slow, painful death on the cross. Not for anything that he did, but for what you and I did, right? And so Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, as he's preparing for this, as he sees that this is coming, like he is hours away from this, he goes to goes to the Father and says this, Father, if you are willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine. You see, it's okay that we take our requests to the Lord. In fact, that's what he wants for us, is to take those requests to him. But you see what Jesus did here? He made what I call this 1% shift in the way that he prayed. He brought his request to the Lord. And in that 1% shift, he said, yet I want your will to be done, not mine, Lord. You see, so often we go to God with this long list of requests, and all we're doing is focusing on what we want in our life, what we think should happen, how we think it should play out. But we've got to make that 1% shift, and we've got to be able to say, yet I want your will to be done, not mine, Lord. You see, because when we make that 1% shift, what we're doing is we're taking the focus and putting it on God. We're taking the focus off of what we think should happen and learning to rely and trust on our Father for his will in our life. You know, Jeremiah 29:11, I know this is a Bible verse that we've heard so many times. It tends to get watered down. But in that verse, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for good and not for evil. And since we know that no matter what, those plans that he has for us are good and not for evil, we've got to learn how to take that step, how to make that 1% shift in the way that we pray and say, Lord, this is what I want. These are my requests, yet I want your will to be done, not mine. This, my friend, is when we start going into the deep waters with God. This is when we stop praying those surface prayers and we learn to go into the deep waters and rely on God, learn to trust God more, learn to really, really go into those deep waters and really experience that spiritual growth and transformation that we're all looking for. But we've got to be willing to make that 1% shift in the way that we pray. Now, I want to take this just one verse further in Luke 22, verse 43, when Jesus goes to God, it goes to the Father, makes that request, then makes that 1% shift and says, yet I want your will to be done, not mine. Here's what it says in verse 43. Then an angel from heaven appeared and strengthened him. So you see what happened here? Jesus made that 1% shift in the way he prayed. He took his request to the Lord. He made that 1% shift in the way that he prayed. And then the angel from God, the angel of heaven, came down and strengthened him. When we are willing to make that 1% shift, when we are willing to step off the shore, go into the deep waters with God, When we really want to experience that deeper connection to God, that spiritual growth and transformation, we've got to be willing to do the same thing Jesus said. We've got to be willing to make that 1% shift in the way that we pray. That's when we start to experience a true and deep and meaningful connection with God. Is it easy? No, it is not, my friend. It's one of the most frightening things we do, right? Because what are we doing? We're giving up that control. We're giving up those desires. We're surrendering what we want to God. And because we know, like Jeremiah 29:11 teaches us, that God has only what is good for us, we know that he's going to take care of us. We know that he is going to bring us and pour out his strength, his wisdom, his guidance, his clarity, all of the things that we need. You know, recently in the Grow Your Faith community, we actually had a guest come in and talk about a testimony that she was going through, actually, mid-testimony, I guess I should call it, where it's everything, or excuse me, things are still being played out and everything. But anyway, she came in to the community and shared that testimony with us. And the thing that I kept seeing over and over and over again was the word provision. Like what I saw in her story was provision. And so often I think we tie provision to monetary things, right? God says he will provide all that we need. And so often we think, okay, that's going to be monetary. Yes, it does mean monetary. It means he is going to provide everything that we need financially, but it also means that guidance, that wisdom, that help. He's going to put people in our lives to help us through. He's going to put people in our lives to give us a clear and better understanding. And so as we learn to make that 1% shift, we can trust that whatever we need, whatever provision we need for this, and God knows what we need, right? He knows exactly what we need. He is going to show up with that provision and exactly what we need every single time. So my friend, if this blessed you today, I'm going to put a link in the show notes as well as a video up on the screen for episode number 98, 7 effective prayers for spiritual growth and transformation. I'm going to teach you in there all the different types of prayers that you can pray to really, really go into those deep waters with God, to get off the sidelines and really start learning how to trust God and pray those deeper prayers, those prayers that are really going to bring on spiritual growth and transformation. And if this blessed you today, be sure to give me a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe to the show so that way you don't miss out on a single video. And then I will meet you back here in the next video.